Howdy, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Meet and Greet, where we have the conversation you want to have with that person you just spent hours in line wanting to meet. My guest today is a fifth degree black belt martial arts instructor based in Livermore, California. He's one of the owners of the United Studios of Self Defense, and he's a personal friend of mine. Our guest on the Meet and Greet is Master Michael Delfino. We're going to be delving into some fight scenes from movies and depicting them, so you're not going to want to miss that. So follow, like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Meet and Greet. Here, don't really you don't really do meet and greets here.
Right.
As opposed to if you do China trips and Japan trips, you go
Uh-huh.
overseas,
That's
you meet with some
some pretty
distinguished.
right. Some political figures, people who, are pretty high up there with high levels of influence.
Hmm. Yeah. And what is it with the glasses? Or when they toast you? There's a story
Yeah,
behind that.
that's a funny story. So before I produced a trip in 2018, and in this trip in 2018, I sent about 275, 280 people to the Shaolin Temple in China. The Shaolin Temple is the birthplace of the martial arts.
Hmm.
So the trip was in June, July, and in May, I get a call from the Chinese consulate in San Francisco and saying, "Hi, Master Delfino, we're so honored to have you coming to our country with such a group of martial artists. We would like to have you and your wife, or at the time, fiance, over for a distinguished dinner at the Chinese consulate." And oh, I'm absolutely honored, of course, I would love to. So as soon as I hang up with them, I call our grandmaster to let him know, hey, I just got this call. This is what I have planned. Is there anything you want me to tell them, or more to the point, not tell them? And he said, no, no, everything about the trip is public knowledge. Feel free to tell them and share whatever you like. I'm like, great. So let me give you a little warning, though. They're going to offer you some Chinese tea. It's awful, but you have to take it because otherwise it's a big insult to their culture to not accept their toast. So I go there, and my wife was still in New Zealand at the time, so obviously I was just going alone. I go there, I start introducing myself. I'm meeting everyone. I'm meeting the Chinese tourism minister, which is actually a very high up there position
Hmm.
in the Chinese government. I meet the vice mayor of Beijing, pretty high up there position.
How many years ago was this?
This is 2018.
So pre-COVID.
Yes, this is pre-COVID. So I'm, shaking hands and doing the whole routine, and then suddenly the Chinese tourism minister comes out with this wine. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, okay, here it is. So this is right before the first course. They pour the wine, or pour the wine, they pour the
The
tea,
tea.
and they start making this toast. And I have the tea, and I take my first sip out of it. The Grandmaster was not lying. This stuff was rancid. So I put it back down, and I'm looking at this glass of tea, and it's, this high. Yeah,
No,
right. And I'm thinking to myself, I have to finish this.
you can't just
I no,
chuck it
no,
on the side.
you have to finish it. So there was a few courses to this meal. It was like 5 courses, 6 courses all told. And at one point, they asked me to make a toast, and I was not expecting that.
In English,
In
mind you.
English, that was not a problem. They all speak English.
Hmm.
So this was the year of the dog that had just begun.
Uh,
So I think to myself, I know, so I stand up, I have this glass of tea. It's quite appropriate that it's the year of the dog. And here at USSD, we're going to China in a couple months. We're really excited about forming these bonds. In American culture, we have a saying that a dog is man's best friend. So it's quite appropriate that this is the year of the dog. The year of the dog. And I was like,
Yay!
hey, that was great. And I sit back down and take another sip of this
Ugh.
rancid tea. Right, I sit back down. I'm like, I did pretty good with that. So after another course or two, I had to excuse myself to use the restroom. And you go down this hallway to get to the restroom, fine. And as I'm leaving the restroom, a young lady who was one of the servers, right, stops me and says, "Hi, sir." She had clearly been born and raised here in the United States. And it's like, the tea. it's awful, isn't it? So I'm like, it's not exactly my cup of tea, right? It's just like, yeah, I know, but it's actually very important that the glass wind up empty. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm trying to kind of chip away at it. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I got my basket, the basket that they use to clear the table with. So what I'll do is I'll kind of block everyone's view of the glass. I'll grab it, leave just a tiny bit left in there. I'll just toss it in my thing and then put it back down so it looks like you drank it. I'm like, absolutely. Reach in my wallet, give her a $20 bill. She, right? We go back over there. I grab the glass and took another small sip. At this point now, she's blocking my view. She dumps all but a tiny bit of it, puts it back down. There's a tiny bit left. Best $20 I've ever spent in my life.
I don't mean this question to sound improper or bad, but you are a uh, sensei in Livermore.
Yes.
Why are you so important to go to China and make this toast and drink this tea?
Well, I was the producer of the trip.
The China trip,
Yeah,
yeah.
of this trip to China. So I was in charge of the group. They knew I was in charge of the group,
Hmm.
and quite frankly, they knew that we were going to be pouring millions of dollars into their account into
Hmm.
their economy.
Yeah.
They know that, and ever since, I've actually been getting calls from them about going back. We had another trip planned in 2020 for obvious
And then,
reasons. That
yeah.
one got canceled. And I'll never forget, back in February of that year, I got a call from the Chinese tourism minister, and they were very upset that we canceled the trip. And their exact words were, trust the Communist Party, we have it all under control. So, well,
We should probably leave it there.
yeah. We, history will tell us we all know what happened from there.
Yes.
So with this year, later this year in June, we have a trip to Japan. Actually, the folks in China heard about this trip to Japan.
Uh-oh.
Word travels fast, and they have actually inquired about us doing another trip next year. And like next year, time out on that, guys. Let me recover from this one.
Hmm.
We'll talk about doing one in 2027 or 2028. So the good news is I haven't burned that bridge. But
Sure.
for a while there, I was not exactly in the best graces of the Chinese government based on having
Well,
to cancel the 2021, but
yeah.
nothing in life is permanent.
Yeah. Let's add some credibility. You're a sensei in Livermore. What rank would you is the official rank of you?
Yes, I am a fifth degree black belt in the art of kempo.
Hmm.
I started the style in May of 1993
And
out in
Kempo is the fighting style.
Correct.
Okay.
So it is either kempo with an M or kenpo with an N. One is the Chinese spelling, one is the Japanese spelling. It quite literally started as a typo about 150 years ago and just simply went from there. But I've been doing that now for about 32 years.
Hmm.
I've been teaching for about 30. And of course, I started as just an assistant, helping around the dojo, maybe for a couple hours a week. Gradually increased my role, and now I've been doing it full time now for 25
I
years.
was about to ask that about you because your resume, you were a cop at one point, and then you just kind of what made you wake up and say, I want to punch people in the face for a living?
Well, the funny way I got started in the martial arts is I never really had the desire to start the martial arts. I was 16 years old.
Isn't that weird? You
That
don't have a desire to do something. My
it's
my
it
dentist does that. He wanted to be a doctor, and then he just wanted to be a dentist.
it's funny how it works out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was driving around, and my best friend at the time, a guy named Adam, trained at this dojo in Belmont, California. And he suddenly, very last minute, very suddenly moved down to Arizona. So, here now I don't got my best friend, and I'm cruising around, and I come across the dojo that he trained at. And Adam had tried to get me to try out a class for years. And
Hmm.
I'm like, no, it's not for me. That's not my thing. Right. Well, I showed up just out of curiosity. Okay, here's the building that he trained at. And the instructor, a guy named Randy Cardellini, coincidentally enough, Linda Cardellini's big brother,
Hmm.
right? Linda Cardellini, known from the Scooby-Doo
Right.
franchise and Hawkeye's wife in the Avengers series. But Randy came out, introduced himself, and after about a half hour worth of convincing, got me to try out a class. Well, 32 years later, I'm still trying it out. I'm not quite ready to commit yet, though.
No, yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah,
25 years
that's
later,
just just need a little bit more
you
convincing
you
for it.
just have your own dojo, and you're an owner of the company now. How many owners are in the USSD now?
There's three of us who are managing partners,
Uh,
and yep, I'm one of the managing partners
and
of the entire franchise.
yours is in Livermore, California.
The dojo I run is in Livermore,
Okay,
California, so
right.
I'm the franchisee of the Livermore location, but I am one of the franchisors of the entire company.
Got it. Got it. So
Yeah.
when people come to you, they're coming straight to the store. I'm trying to advertise for you right now. You
Hey,
know?
we just bought the company back in September of last year of
Yeah, this is new.
2024.
This
This
is
is
a new
very
thing.
new, so we could use all the publicity we can get.
And that's why you agreed.
That's what the only reason I'm here.
Not because we know each other or anything.
No, that and you're paying me nothing. Hey, but we had pizza.
I gave
We
you
got we
pizza
got pizza. That's a fair deal.
and the Royal Rumbles today.
Yes,
As a teacher of martial arts, specifically kenpo, I'm going to use kenpo and kenpo
that's fine.
interchangeably.
They are interchangeable.
Yeah. Someone like layman walks in on the street and says, "Can you teach me karate?" What's your first response probably going to be?
Honestly, the first response is yes.
Hmm.
We actually have the word karate on our marquee above the location because typically the layman doesn't know what kempo is.
Right.
They've never heard of kempo. The chances are they are actually very familiar with people who have done kempo. Karate, classical karate, is not taught nearly as often as people think.
Hmm.
So most karate dojos are teaching some variant of it. And a variant of karate is kenpo. A lot of full names of it are kempo karate.
Hmm.
So I absolutely say yes, but then it's my job from there to further educate them on exactly what our style is,
Sure.
right? Because you're not going to be able to give a 5 hour explanation with a marquee.
Hmm.
So the way I view it, both as a manager, an instructor, as an educator, is I got to get them in the door, and then the educational process starts from there.
Right. Uh, for me, growing up, watching fight scenes from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers through The Karate Kid, which we'll talk about later,
Sure.
and then The Matrix, of course, just all these different fighting. Do you get customers that are like inspired by these visual big movie things? It's like, teach me how to be Ralph Macchio.
You get that on occasion,
Hmm.
especially recently, the popularity of a show like Cobra Kai.
Hmm.
You would get people that would come in, they had just watched Cobra Kai or the Jason Bourne movies, for
Ah,
instance, where there were some good fight scenes in those, or whatever it might be. And you'll occasionally see those little spikes, but they're generally not sustainable.
yeah,
Once the initial popularity of it wanes,
sure.
you generally don't see too much of it from there. Of course, back in the 80s, something like The Karate Kid really made the martial arts kind of a mainstream thing.
Hmm.
It really brought it to the forefront of people's attention, and it was more than just some of the things like Bloodsport and Kickboxer that
Hmm.
people would often
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Exactly, exactly. So in that context, it's fantastic when it gets that mainstream attention. But then again, it circles back to what I talked about earlier, where then it becomes my job to educate the student and say,
Hmm.
here's what Hollywood shows you, here's what
Sure,
actually works.
sure. So without naming names, obviously, you because I know you've come across this. What about? Give me three misconceptions or things that people are doing wrong, like a first day student. Like for instance, how you throw a punch. You're the one that taught me that most people throw a punch like this.
I wouldn't even say that most people are punching like this. I have seen karate schools that don't correct that, and that's
Hmm.
shame on them. But a couple of the examples of first day students who maybe watched Karate Kid or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or whatever else is they see the flips, they see the backflips, the
Mm.
cartwheels, the spinning reverse crescent kicks, everything like that.
The
And they
Chuck Norris roundhouse.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Now, Master Norris is actually a legit martial artist. He
Hmm.
he knows what he's doing, but of course, even he will flare things up for the screen, and
Oh yeah.
good for him for doing so. Right, the man's a legend. But they'll see some of the theatrics, and they think that's how you actually fight,
Hmm.
and it just isn't. So one of the big things that we have to really untrain the
Mm.
students out of is some of those theatrics, particularly some of the more gymnastics elements
Okay.
of it. And I always tell people it takes skill to do a backflip. It takes skill to do a no-handed cartwheel or, any of that.
Hmm.
I can't do it, but you would also never do that in an actual fight.
Mm.
Right? Or you see these kicks where people can just bring their kick completely vertical in the air. Again, I have nothing but respect for the skill to do that, but you're never going to actually do that in the street.
Sure.
So to train them, or more to the point, untrain them from what they think they know
Hmm.
to what's actually sound fundamentals in a martial art context.
Cool. As a teacher, you do initial baseline of a student that comes in, or do you have like fixed ages for like a teenager versus an adult versus a three, I don't know, 3-year-old would do karate, but or kempo.
Sure. Well, I start kids as little as 5. I
Mm.
do know instructors who successfully teach kids 4, even 3 years old. Having said that, that's all a matter of the individual style of the instructor.
Mm.
I personally find that 3, 4-year-olds, there are certain aspects that they're just not able to grasp with
Hmm.
their cognitive level of development at
Sure,
that age.
sure.
And I want it to be a positive experience for them. So that 3 or 4-year-olds, since they don't have that cognitive development yet, they're just going to get frustrated.
Gotcha.
The way I look at it, I would rather have that student for years and years and years once they turn 5 or 6 or 7 than have the student for 2 or 3 months at 3 or 4.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
As opposed to the arrogant 20-year-old who wants to have a black belt in 2 months.
and you get those too.
Yeah.
You get the, like you said, the arrogant 20-year-old who thinks they're going to be the next UFC champion.
Hmm.
And then they learn that getting punched in the face actually hurts. And again, you asked earlier about things on TV that maybe you
Right.
need to untrain them from. And again, let's talk about Cobra Kai for a second.
Yeah, sure.
These fight scenes where they're getting rocked with punch after punch after punch after punch right in the face, right in the side of the head. After one, maybe two of those at most are going to be unconscious. You're going to have a severe concussion.
There's just a minor bruise, maybe a nosebleed, but no
Right,
broken
right,
nose, nothing.
exactly. And people think, oh yeah, I can take that hit. No, you can't. No, you can't. Trust me. If I land a punch clean right on the side of your head, you're going down. So you get people like that.
Sure.
And yes, you do get the people, we call them rank chasers, who they sign up, like you said, they think they're going to get their black belt in 2 or 3 years. And part of that, again, is the industry's fault
Hmm.
because you do have dojos where you literally buy your black belt. And,
Yeah.
literally 2 years later, three at most, and they're awarding them with this black belt. So
What's
there is that
what's
stigma.
what's worse, dealing with the 20-year-old student or the parent?
Oh, parent.
Yeah.
Absolutely the parent.
Oh yeah.
No doubt. No doubt. I rarely
I'm
have a.
opening up I'm opening up a can of worms with this on purpose.
You really are.
Yeah.
So you look at the parents. The parents are actually always the problem. The student very rarely. Where the problem, of course, parents love their child.
Hmm.
And God bless them for it. I don't. I, 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 I tell the parents, you love them. I don't. I care very deeply about my students,
Hmm.
to be clear. I care very deeply about my students. And yes, once, those select few students who 10 years later, they're still with me. Okay, do I love that student? Maybe, sure, but certainly not in the same context that a parent loves their child.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna kid myself into thinking that. But as an instructor, I'm able to look at them with a level of objectivity
Right.
where no parent can look at their child completely object,
Yeah.
without any bias like that. And I'm able to look at that student and say, here's what they're doing well, and here's what they need to work on. So, yes, I've absolutely had parents, well, why isn't so and so a blue belt yet or a brown belt yet?
Why am I paying you all this money and he's not
Right,
advancing?
exactly. And no matter how many times I try to tell some of those parents, the rank doesn't matter.
Hmm.
Some of them get it, and some of them just don't.
I know your stories, and I'm gonna try and get some out of you. Especially this, I want you to tell this one.
Sure.
You have a story where you set up your brown belts against a rank changer dojo.
I did, yes. So the story behind this is I'll go to the gym and I'll often be wearing my dojo's logo.
Hmm.
And there's this one gentleman that would come up to me practically every day talking to me about how great his kids are at this dojo across town. And
His children?
his two kids,
His
yes,
kids.
his two
Okay.
kids
Not his
who
students.
right, who were I believe they were 11 and 13
Hmm.
and 10 and 12, 11, 13, that range. And both boys. And this dojo where his kids were at does not have a good reputation.
Hmm.
They rush their students through the ranks. They're another one of these schools where has people doing a punch like this. And for
Oh,
viewers who might
jeez.
be wondering, you throw a punch like this, you'll snap every bone in your thumb. And we're literally talking about brown and black belts making that
Yikes.
mistake. This is literally the type of mistake that should be corrected on the first day because you're talking about the health and well-being of your student.
Right.
So finally, I got quite frank, and he says, they're brown belts at this place. Finally, I just got tired of him talking the kids up. So I tell him, I'll tell you what, here's when our advanced class is. Why don't you show up? Why don't you try out a class free of charge? Oh, yeah, sure. I'm going to show up. Months go by. I don't see him. Finally, it was in the middle of the summertime, I remember, because summertime afternoons are a little bit more busy because the kids don't have school. And I had two kids on the floor. I actually remember his kids were 10 and 12 because my two kids were 9 and 11. And my two kids on the floor were blue belts. Blue is a mid rank. It's a middle level rank, usually accomplished after a couple years worth of training. You're a blue belt,
Sure.
about halfway between starting and brown belt.
Hmm.
So all of a sudden, this guy comes in with his two kids. This is middle of the afternoon, not during the advanced class, but just so happened to have a couple blue belts on the floor. So I'm like, hey guys, blah blah blah. I start chatting. I'll tell you what, why don't you gear up? Let's see what you got. So his 10 and 12-year-old brown belts. I put his 10-year-old against my 9-year-old, his 12-year-old versus my 11-year-old. His kids were pretty tall, pretty good sized kids. My kids were average sized kids,
Hmm.
average blue belts, right? We're not
Average
talking
8-year-olds.
average 8, 10-year-old kids, right? Nothing especially unique about them, right? We're not talking about those prodigy blue belts or anything.
If you're watching kids, it's okay.
That's
He's not meaning
absolutely,
exactly what
absolutely, it's
because
okay.
they're gonna know who they are when they
Right.
watch this.
Yes, absolutely. So we have to start sparring.
Hmm.
And my two kids, the blue belts, just start destroying these brown belts.
Go into
And
detail. Go into detail. What does this
sure.
mean?
So the two blue belts are absolutely controlling the match.
Uh-huh.
They're controlling where the match is, how hard the match is going, the pace of the match, the tempo of the match, anything you could possibly imagine. So finally, about 30 seconds into it, minute into it, whatever it is, I have to go to the 8-year-old and I say, hey, hey, hey. And what am I signaling to him? To slow down. I'm signaling to my blue belt, sparring a brown belt, slow down. And I'll never forget the look on his face. He looks over to me and says, but sensei, and he starts pointing to the kid's belt. Brown, Ray, brown belt. I know, I'll explain later. Right? He's okay, he slowed down. Ray, for the record, a blue belt should never beat a brown belt.
Absolutely.
And he knew that in our sparring classes, when he's going up against one of our brown belts, he can go as hard as he wants because it's not going to make any difference,
Right.
right? He can go as hard and fast, whatever as he wants, and he's still getting beat by that brown belt. So, the kid was 8. I can't blame him. He didn't quite understand because he's thinking a brown belt is a brown belt.
Right.
And he just couldn't understand, wait a second, why isn't this brown belt as good as Billy? Or why isn't this brown belt as
Yeah.
good as so and so? Right? Well,
The
yeah.
lesson to be learned here is you can pay the money to get the rank, but you're still going to get your butt handed to you
That's
if you don't have a quality lesson plan, teacher, putting in the work too.
absolutely
You know?
a dirty little secret in the martial arts industry is dojos make their money one of two ways:
Hmm.
monthly tuition or testing fees.
Hmm.
And at our school and our system, there's 10 or 12 ranks between white and black belt, which on average takes 6 or 8 years to achieve. So we're not talking about testing every month.
Right.
There are dojos, and the dojo from that story earlier is one such example, where they literally have 30 or 40 ranks between white and black belt. And then they charge you 100, 150, 200, 250. And
Hmm.
of course, by the time you get 10 or 15 ranks in, we're talking a pretty expensive testing fee.
Right.
So, what is their incentive to get the students a black belt? Money.
Money.
Where for us, we have no real incentive beyond the well-being of the student
Hmm.
to get them to black belt. And of course, what should be your intent? The well-being of your student.
Sure. Do you have a filter system for those who are maybe like bullies who want to advance their skills as opposed to those kids who just want to learn self-defense?
You can generally read that style of person pretty quickly,
Hmm.
especially for people who have been doing it for a while. And fortunately, I haven't had too many issues of the bully at school wanting to become more of a bully.
I
To
would,
be,
yeah, I would say like the bullies that I'm referring to are the rank chasers, right?
oh,
Those are the ones that go in, they just want to get, yeah, I'm a black belt and I can kick your butt, you know? Whereas, well, I'm a student from Delfino, I'm a blue belt and I can.
sure, sure, sure. I think again that goes towards the culture that the dojo fosters.
Hmm.
And the culture I have in my dojo is not that of a rank chaser.
Right.
And if someone is a rank chaser, they're probably not going to last very long in my dojo, and they're probably going to quit and give me some ridiculous
Not because you're
reason.
kicking them out, just because they get
No,
frustrated that they're
no,
not advancing.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I very rarely have I ever had to kick someone out of my dojo,
Hmm.
and in both of those cases, they were adult students. And but it is pretty rare that you get that. What I find happens with the rank chaser philosophy is that's taught to them by the instructor.
Mm.
Where the student walks in the door, they don't know what to expect.
Right.
And then the rank chaser mentality is something that's taught to them by the instructor as sort of the easy way.
Hmm.
Well, the easy way isn't necessarily the best way.
Right. And you're also teaching them not just to get the rank, but these are the things that they can apply in their everyday life too. So
Absolutely.
like you're obviously gonna not maybe sign a waiver saying, look, if you beat someone up, you're not gonna mention.
Well, there needs to be what I call internal developments.
Hmm. Right.
External developments are things like balance, power, coordination, things you can see.
Yeah.
Internal developments are things like confidence, focus, etiquette,
Right.
discipline. You can't see them, but you know it when you got it.
Hmm.
And especially for the parents, that's the most common reason they sign their kids up with us.
Mm.
So, yes, taking pride in your rank, but before you get that rank, how do you display our five principles, which are effort, etiquette, sincerity, self-control, and character? Not only in the dojo, but outside of the dojo.
Right.
And I do take a very personal interest in my students' lives. I'll ask them, "Oh, okay, at Boy Scouts, how did you take on a leadership role in
Mm.
Boy Scouts?" Or, okay, you're also on the soccer team. All right, you just fouled the other kid. It happens.
Yeah.
Did you help the kid up?
Hmm.
Simple things. Etiquette, for example, doesn't need to be some grandiose expression of anything. It can be as simple reaching your hand out to help someone up, holding the door open for someone, a please, a thank you.
Yeah.
And those are the type of things that I'm teaching our students. And one of the comments I always talk about is black belt effort. And I talk to our students. I cannot expect you to look like a black belt. I can expect you to act like one.
Hmm.
because there's nothing special about these people over here who are black belts. They've just been doing it longer.
Right.
So you can act like them. Now, okay, you don't have their power yet. You don't have their coordination yet. You don't have their overall skill level
Yeah.
yet. And I always use that term, yet. But you can absolutely give 100% of your effort. You can absolutely show that proper etiquette, all those five principles that we talked about. So we talk about black belt effort, black belt etiquette, black belt sincerity, black belt self-control,
Hmm.
black belt character. You do all those things long enough, the black belt takes care of itself.
Yeah, I can speak firsthand to this too. You're that kind of person too, because there have been times I've asked you, "Hey, I need you to step in for something that's about to happen," and your first question usually is like, "Do I really need to be there?" Like when we were doing that exchange
Right.
with
Yes.
female friends possessions, and we didn't want the ex-boyfriend to come over.
Right.
You were like, "Do I really need to be there?" And yeah, you did. We won't say any names or anything like that, but yeah,
No.
you did. But kind of along those lines, when has there been just for a fun story? When has there been a time where you've had to throw down personally because either guys were picking on you or
There,
there's a specific story I have in mind where you're in Vegas and
sure,
yeah,
sure, right. It wasn't Vegas, it was Reno.
Reno. Okay,
And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
where
Tomato, tomato.
yeah, they're
Vegas,
pretty much the
Reno.
same thing.
Reno is the armpit of
It
Vegas. Yeah.
is. It is. It's
Sorry,
Vegas' little
Reno.
brother, right? Yeah. Hey, you're still the biggest little city in the world, okay? But so yeah, I was at Reno for a show, and as I was walking towards the show, I saw three guys. They started by picking on one of the security guards there, and the security guard, he was pretty elderly. He was probably in his like late 60s, maybe even early 70s, and
Hmm.
they're giving her a hard time. They pushed him, and I kind of ran up there, and as they saw me running up, they kind of bolted off. And I was, okay, fine. Yeah, right, leave them be. Make sure that the security guard's okay. He was fine. So I continue on my way, and where I was going just happened to be the same direction that they took off. But I
Hmm.
figured they scattered. I figured they just went off into outside the casino somewhere. Well, as I go outside, or pardon me, as I continue on that walkway, all of a sudden there they were, and they jumped me. And
Mm.
right, hooked one of them, chambered a kick to go for one of them, one of the other guys, and it looked like a scene of a cartoon where the guy just hits the brakes and fell hard on his tailbone. Right, and bases took all three of these guys down. And of course, it's a casino. Everything is on
Camera.
camera.
Yeah.
So we weren't talking about the smartest kids in the world, kids. They were, 18, 19, and 20 years old. Right? Of course, this whole thing is over and done within a matter of just a few seconds.
Sure.
And Reno PD, of course, they have police officers in the casino. They swarm over, jump on these guys. And a few of my friends who, because we were all going to the same place at the same time, but not necessarily together, right? They also the aftermath of it. So I gave I gave them some of my costume pieces. I'm like, hey guys, I'll tell you what, I'll meet you at the theater, right? I need to go get this taken care of. So, the PD gave me the directions to their little department in the casino.
Sure.
And so I was, maybe 5 minutes behind them. And I go over to this little
Hmm.
room that they're in. It's about the size of a living room. And they're watching it back on video. And these three kids, of course, they're cuffed in, right? They're sitting maybe 10 yards away, right? Hands down like this. They just got their butts kicked by an old man. Right, right. And right, so now there's three or four of us watching it, security guard, a couple of police officers, myself, right, watching it on the CCTV, footage. And one of the guys like, man, you could have put those guys in the hospital if you wanted to. Right? I'm like, yeah, none of the, and I point right to him. Yeah, none of these guys know how to fight.
No.
There was no need. And right, I didn't injure any of them. It was just
Sure.
ended it. And, as I said, these kids didn't know how to fight. So there was no
Well,
need
yeah,
to.
there was you were able to size them up and
Right.
you were able to practice your five techniques, and they decided to throw down with you anyway, and they threw the first punch. You took them out. Yeah, they had what was coming to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know the time and place when it's time to throw. You also know when not to throw down.
Right.
Like the time in Vegas when you were checking out a girl.
That's That's a fun one
I
too.
have to have you tell this story.
Uh, so
The way you tell it too.
another fun one.
And keep in mind, folks, this podcast is called the Meet and Greet, and I would say this is the ultimate meet and greet right here.
Yeah, probably. So I'm at a martial art conference, of
In
course,
Vegas.
in Las Vegas.
Not to be confused with
Not to be confused with Reno.
right.
Yes, this is in Las Vegas. And on the final day of this conference, there's always a big party that's thrown. And it's always at a different location. Well, at this one year, this was back in, I want to say 2017, 18, around the same time as that strip I produced. And it's at the Voodoo Lounge.
Mhm.
And the Voodoo Lounge is at the very top floor, the roof, in fact, of the Rio Hotel. So I'm there. I'm in, of course, with my status in the martial arts world. I'm in the VIP
Mhm.
section, just kind of hanging out. And I'm sitting there nursing the same drink for 2 hours probably. And in walks in this couple, and the woman, stunningly beautiful woman.
Yeah.
And I'm not the type to gawk, but I caught myself staring for a minute.
Mm.
And all of a sudden I look at who has his arm around this woman. It's Mike Tyson staring a hole right through me. So I'm standing right next to the glass partition and I'm like this. 88 stories? Fight Mike Tyson. Yeah, I can bounce. That's what I'm thinking.
This is not a
Now,
good time to throw down.
right. Now, for the record, it is impossible to jump that barrier because the way it's curved in and whatnot.
But this also wasn't like last year. We're talking like five,
So,
10 years.
7, 8 years ago,
Yeah, I
right?
mean,
Yes,
still,
yes, yes,
Tyson's a beast.
yes. He absolutely is. So now I look back at Tyson, still staring a hole right through me, and just slowly walks towards me.
Towards you.
And then in that high pitched voice of his, "Hey man, it's the 3 second rule. It's the 3 second rule, man. You know the 3 second rule." My heart is doing one of these. Right? No, Mike, I don't know. I'm not sure what you're talking about. It's the 3 second rule. You can look, but if you look for more than 3 seconds, you're staring. Right? And he was messing with me
Absolutely.
the entire time.
He knows who he
He
is.
absolutely knows who he is. And he and I actually sat there and chatted for 5 or 10 minutes, right about nothing. I don't even remember what we talked about. I was probably still too scared. Right? There were probably certain parts that he may have absolutely kicked my ass and I just blocked it from my memory. Who knows? But no,
You
like you
woke up with an
said.
ice pack on your head,
Yeah, right.
and the ice is in your drink too, so you don't know which one came first.
Exactly, exactly. Yep, so that's my meeting Mike Tyson story.
All right. And because now you are on the internet and this is going to be public, the one story that you have to tell every single person about your meet and greet, who did you make a sandwich for? Or no, I'm sorry.
No.
They made the sandwich for you.
Yes, yes.
This was before you were a martial arts instructor.
No, I was already a martial arts
You were a
instructor.
martial arts
Yes,
instructor.
yes.
Okay.
This is
I have to hear this story every single time I introduce Mike to one of my friends. So
I will preface by saying that anyone who has this story to tell would tell it to everyone they know.
very true.
So, this is right about when the Avengers first came out.
Right,
The
the
first
first one,
Avengers, right.
2008, I think.
That sounds about
Yeah.
right. And at the time, I was doing a lot of bodyguard gigs, right? I was still fairly new in setting my career.
Mhm.
And as I only opened my Livermore Dojo in 2004, so, not quite to the degree of success
Right.
that,
Well, yeah.
I'm at now, as you'd expect. So I'm taking a lot of side gigs for bodyguard gigs. And a lot of people have an image of a bodyguard as the big, burly, scary guy. But the truth is, a lot of times they want the bodyguard to be someone exactly like me, who's very unassuming. And the client won't be scared by the bodyguard.
Sure.
So the client was Scarlett Johansson. And she had some events in San Francisco. So I'm in the car with her, just chatting it up about anything in particular. And we get back to her hotel room. And the policy on that sort of thing is what you do. You simply ask the client, would you like me to come into your room or would you like me to stay in the hall? And they usually have like a chair or something set up. So it's not awkward. You're not just standing there.
And it's not just you alone. There's one other person like
No,
that's
just her and
it's
I.
just you and her.
Just her and I. Ray said, no, 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 please come on inside. Okay.
Comments, stop. I see the comments already.
Yeah, it's a family show, guys. This is
Yes.
a family podcast. So I clear the room, in other words, making sure no stalkers are in there or
Right,
anything
right.
like that. And there was a deli spread, on the side of one of the walls. Notice it, fine, whatever. And the room's fine, of course. He tells me to sit down wherever I like. So I take a seat on the couch.
Hmm.
Right? So, would you like anything to eat? And she's over at the deli spread. I'm like, sure. I start to stand up. I got it for you. What do you want? Roast beef on wheat, whatever. Yeah, we got, 7 Up, Coke, whatever. I'm all sure, So she walks over, a plate, couple drinks, right? Just like a server would at anywhere else, right?
Yeah.
Hands me in by a plate. She sits right down next to me, as close as I'm sitting to you right now. And I just looked at her and I tell her, I'm going to tell everyone I know that you made me a sandwich, right? So here I am, true
Can't
to my
deny it,
word. No,
It's the most talented people that are the most humble.
she was incredibly humble,
Yeah.
incredibly polite. And I've done gigs for other, various people, and I've definitely found that to be pretty universally true.
Yeah. I mean, I've done some meet and greets like outside. It's like in San Francisco, I'll go see a show. I think If Then uh, I saw a couple years ago. I don't know if you know this story. And a lot of people in that show was Anthony Rapp, who best known for being in Rent
Oh,
as
sure.
Mark.
Right, right.
Um, I've met Adam Pascal, but at a different time. But the headliner or the main star of this show, If Then, was before it went to Broadway. I was doing it in San Francisco. Adina Menzel,
Hmm,
and Adina Menzel performed that night. And this is like 2 or 3 years after Frozen came out, so she's a huge star.
sure.
Everyone's daughter and mother knows who
Wants to be
Adina.
Elsa, right.
Right. So it and as always, when you go see a show, you stand by the stage door if you want to meet the cast because they got to get out of the building somehow. Anthony Rapp came out and I got to see him again and he signed my paper, but Adina did not come out. And a lot of people around me were getting like, well, "How come she's not coming out? She's so." It's like, guys, Adina's probably one of the nicest people on the planet. She may have some problems with certain groups, but trust me, this is the reason she's coming out is because we will trample her.
Sure.
You So yeah, and I can guarantee you, like she's probably like if she were, oh, just one person, okay, a good example too is John Hurley.
Sure.
I met him. He did spam a lot, and
Hmm.
he's just
Right.
he's a cool guy.
That's cool.
I'll tell a story later. Um, but yeah, Mike Tyson and Scarlett Johansson. Those are
Those are two fun ones.
those are two
Those are
fun
two
ones.
fun ones, yeah.
All right, going back to what you actually do for a living.
Sure.
You're talking about flashy motion picture,
Right.
whatever things like that. I have put together some scenes
Okay.
for us to watch, and I want you to watch them, and we can go through it, nitpick as much as we can.
Why do I get the feeling that the Karate Kid crane kick is going to be one of them?
Absolutely. Why wouldn't it be?
Of course it would be.
No, but the first scene is going to be from Batman Begins,
Sure.
and it's at the very beginning when Ducard is with Bruce Wayne, and then we'll just watch the scene.
Yeah.
Okay.
Manipulate the fears in others. You must first master your own. Are you ready to begin?
I can barely stand.
Death does not wait for you to be ready. Death is
You
not
normally-
considerate.
Boot kick people like that when they first come to your dojo?
Not when they first come in, no.
Your face,
Now, I
devil.
will say that if someone's not prepared to fight, don't step on the mats. So that's actually not bad right there. Go and pause it.
Yeah, so he's already mentioned two fighting styles.
So,
He's
right.
mentioned Tiger and Jiu-Jitsu.
Yes. So on the Tiger, the The Bruce Wayne character, of course, charges right at him, which is very typical of a tiger style fighter. They have one direction, right at you.
Mhm.
The Liam Neeson character sidesteps in a very circular manner, deflects him. Yeah, that's pretty good fundamental martial arts right there, actually. You don't want to take a tiger fighter head on. Then
Mhm.
it becomes a matter of who's stronger, who has more momentum, who has just more brute force. That's not necessarily good martial arts. You take that energy, you deflect it, you go to the side with it. That was pretty good.
It's moves and counter moves, I'm
Yes.
assuming. Right? So when Bruce Wayne attacks Descartes with the tiger, is Ducard deflecting it with another tiger move, or is he
No,
using a different style
he's
altogether?
using a different style altogether.
Okay.
So what he does there, you can't really see his footwork in the scene, but you
No.
definitely see him move a bit. And he circles out.
Hmm.
So in the Kempo system, we have what we call our 10 laws of Kempo. One of those 10 laws is the circle versus line. What that means, if someone's coming at you with a linear attack, you use circular against them. Conversely, if they're coming at you with a circular attack, you use a linear attack.
Hmm.
So other styles have similar concepts. It's not particularly unique to what we do, but that thematic element of meet the style with a counter style is exactly what he does in that scene, where he moves to the side and you can see either it looked like his forward arm does more of a sweeping type of movement, where it's coming across
Right.
this way. Where now, okay, think about that energy coming forward and think of that sweeping movement coming across, and that's deflecting
Hmm.
Batman's energy.
Is Kempo like the big umbrella, and then I know this isn't going to be accurate when I say this, so just kind of as an example,
Sure.
Kempo is the umbrella, and under it is like Tiger, Jujitsu, and
In
Panther.
a very rudimentary description, yes.
Okay.
The full answer to that would probably be about an 8 hour podcast.
No, no, no. I have
Right?
8 hours.
But yes.
I don't think I could stand you for 8 hours. No,
Likewise.
Panthers.
Panther, yeah.
Skills. This is not a dance.
That's kind of ironic. He says this is not a dance, but it is.
It kind of
totally.
is, though, right?
Yeah.
Not of me.
And go and pause it there. So,
That's the end of the scene.
yeah,
Yeah.
so you look at a lot, he says Panther, Lost Owls called it the leopard, 6 of one, half a dozen of another,
Mhm.
and a very agile type of style. On that one, he takes a little bit more of a direct approach to defend it. I'm not quite sure if I'd call it a tiger approach per se, but he definitely takes a more aggressive approach. He's
Mhm.
not trying to meet the agility of the leopard or the panther with more agility. He's more holding his ground and just taking his own or that agility of the leopard and just moving it over here and getting him off balance.
Mhm. And he gets him in a chokehold,
Right.
as we see. I know we kind of ironically said he said this is not a dance, but it absolutely is
And
a
it really
choreographed fight
is.
scene.
It really is,
Mhm.
right. You when you look at a good fight, a good, two good fighters,
Mhm.
there is an aesthetic aspect to it. One of the things I always tell people, martial arts, it's the second word,
Arts.
art,
Mhm.
right? There is an absolute art form to it. We have a mutual friend, Kayalise,
Mhm.
and she's a very accomplished dancer. And I remember I made a comment to her once. She is one of my black belts as well. And I made a comment that, yeah, I have no artistic ability. She said, yeah, you do, Sensei. It's just in a different way,
Mhm.
right? One of your guests, Alex Ramon,
Yeah.
he was saying, play your song the way you know how, is the advice his grandmother gave him.
Right.
And how does Mr. Ramon play his song? With cards.
Right.
Right. And there's an artistic beauty to that, whether you're talking about dancing or magic or, yeah, two skilled fighters.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. On a scale of 1 to 10 of accuracy,
Mhm.
where would you kind of gauge Batman Begins?
Look at us. Look at a 7 or an 8.
7 or 8.
Yeah.
Okay. There's other fight scenes in the movie, of course.
Sure.
I just chose this one particular because of the various stances that he uses. Because when you see Batman later, they're not calling out, "Oh my gosh, he's using leopard on us!"
Sure.
You
And
know.
that is a difficult part in that is you can't necessarily see their movement too well.
True.
And when you talk about the quality of a fighter, their foundation, meaning their stance, is huge on that.
Right. And also, another reason why I chose this scene is exactly what you just said. You can't really see
No.
because they're just moving too quick.
Right.
Much like, and this is why I wanted you to tell you that story earlier, the story where you beat up those guys in Reno. They're saying the camera, it's only like a couple seconds long,
Sure.
whereas we're in the audience, we want to be entertained by long fight scenes.
Right.
But Batman Begins, this is why I love this movie, is no, Batman puts them down quick.
Right.
Right. And even though he's calling out these various styles, the only thing we really see Bruce Wayne do is the initial stance of Tiger
Right.
Panther, right? Which are those real stances that
Yes.
he's doing? Yeah, they're actually real stances.
Yes. Different styles call them different things.
Mhm.
Right. It can be as basic as a fighting stance or a cat stance or something along those lines. We don't necessarily call them a tiger stance or a panther stance or anything like that.
Yeah.
Right. Having said that, yes, there's legitimacy to getting into a particular type of stance to match the style that you're trying to do for the given moment. Yes.
Yeah, cool. Let's add some special effects and wire fighting technique.
Okay.
Okay. So this next scene, The Matrix.
Yes.
Got to do The Matrix.
Of course.
Because I mean, if I were to do, if I were to pick another scene, like I was like going through how many fight scenes are there that he would actually like break down. One of them I thought about doing, but I didn't do was Bruce Lee versus Chuck Norris.
Sure.
That would have been a great one, but I think we would have spent, I think that's an entire scene for scene, move for move, because Chuck Norris is an accomplished,
Very much so. And so is Master Lee.
but surprisingly, which actor did you say like shocks the world of who's an accomplished fighter?
Al Bundy.
Al Bundy.
Yeah.
His
Ed
name
O'Neill.
is Ed O'Neill.
Right.
Yeah, he's not in any.
Yeah. No, he doesn't do action movies.
But now, how do you know this? How do you know that Ed O'Neill is
From being in the industry.
just being in the?
Yeah, being as connected in the martial arts world that I am,
Mhm.
I just know how good he is.
That's
I've never worked with him, right? He's a jiu-jitsu artist. I'm a kempo artist.
Yeah.
I've never met the man, but just knowing other people, martial arts world is a small world.
Sure. And all that to say, like Ed O'Neill, I've never seen him fight. Of course, he does comedies, and he, like you said, he's
Sure.
Al Bundy from Married with
Right,
Children. We're not
right.
going to expect him to throw a punch,
Right.
right? The reason why I bring him up is because there's a lot of actors that surprise us of how
Sure.
much they know.
Elvis Presley was like that.
Oh wow, I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of actors out there who don't know a whole lot, but study hard
Yes.
to get to the level of
Matt
where they're
Damon
at. Matt Damon
is a
or-
perfect example.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Born Identity.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Keanu Reeves.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
of course, I say Keanu Reeves because we're going to do The
Matrix,
Matrix next,
right.
I don't think he knew martial arts before The Matrix. I can't speak for him.
I don't
but,
know, not that I know of.
but I can guarantee you his work ethic is study up on,
Absolutely.
right? And yeah, same with Lawrence Fishburne, who's
Right.
in this next scene as well. Like, I don't want to. So when I'm saying this because when we're about to nitpick The Matrix hard,
Sure.
right? And I don't want to take away from the actor the amount of work and effort they put
Absolutely.
in studying these arts, like we were saying, these techniques of fighting style, because they could just have a bad choreographer.
Sure.
Number one, and number two, it's The Matrix. There's going to be there's special effects, obviously. You're not going to run up a wall,
Right.
You're not
Sure.
teaching your kids these things.
Exactly.
But there are some questions I have about this scene in particular.
Sure.
So that's why I was bringing up Ed O'Neill.
Right. Absolutely.
I know Kung Fu.
Does he?
No, I'm not sure if that's kung fu or just some generic martial art.
Yeah. What is this?
Nothing.
This is. I mean, they're doing open stances, poses.
Those are absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Right. You look at how far away they are from each other. They're a good 15 feet apart from each other. Whatever that is.
Yeah. And
And there's absolutely no reason to be in any kind of a stance. Now, okay, Lawrence Fishburne is in something of a cat stance, okay, right? Fundamentally, nothing wrong with that per se, right? The Keanu Reeves' character, I'm not quite sure why his arms would be outstretched like that and
Uh,
in that low of a stance. You can't move. That's great for training purposes, but certainly not for combative purposes.
there's no defense.
You can't defend, you can't attack. That's a
Yeah.
pretty bad combination.
So in contrast, we just watched Bruce Wayne do, Tiger Panther.
Sure.
You know, these guys are just looking cool.
Yeah,
You say,
absolutely.
okay. So there's no like what the wide the wide kick me in the crotch stance for Keanu
Yes,
Reeves.
exactly.
Now, but Lawrence Fishburne's stance, particularly, he's not putting a whole lot of weight on that foot that's in front of him.
Correct. So that's what would be referred to as a Chinese cat stance.
Uh-huh.
A Japanese cat stance, the forward foot would be much closer to his base leg and he'd be more on the ball of his foot. That's actually a pretty good Chinese cat stance. It's not an easy stance to get into. It looks a lot easier than it actually is to do and also to hold for any length of time. Now, having said that, again, given how far away from each other they are, right?
Yeah.
You can pretty much just be standing there picking your nose and be just as effective. But having said that, even the cat stance, while a legitimate martial art move, it is very limited. It's not necessarily the type of stance that you would start in to engage with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Keanu Reeves throws the first punch, and
Yeah.
it's like almost as the cat stance is just nothing. Drunken boxing.
Yeah. Lawrence Fishburne, very defensive. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. It's actually a pretty good movement. I've never done like that. Fun, but
Good.
not particularly
Adaptation.
realistic. Your ankle would snap before you
Improvisation.
would spin around.
But your weakness is not your technique.
I want to talk about that line, adaptation and improvisation. When sparring with anyone,
Sure.
how much improvisation is there, or
Oh.
as opposed to just doing the muscle movements of what a style looks like?
And there's a ton of improv
Mhm.
that goes on in the middle of the fight. You constantly have to be adjusting for what your opponent is doing,
Mhm.
right? Mike Tyson said, everyone's got a good plan until they get punched in the face.
Mhm.
You have to adjust as you go. And your opening plan is great, but it also can be faked.
Mm.
So you need to kind of read your opponent. Let's say my initial plan is to go straight at you, but their plan is to go straight at me, right? There's an expression when two tigers fight, one is killed and the other is mortally wounded.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
these adaptation, improvisation, whatever you want to call it, is absolutely critical mid-fight. You constantly need to be making adjustments based on what's working or what isn't.
Mhm.
A good fighter will adjust their style based on what's working or what isn't. A funny story on that was back in 2013 at the Shaolin, on a totally separate trip to the Shaolin Temple. I attested for my fourth degree black belt during
Mhm.
that trip, and I was sparring a colleague of mine who I'd known for a very long time, and he's a very aggressive fighter. He jokes, I have two directions, straight and forward. And
Mhm.
so he and I, we bow, we get our guards up, and the Grandmaster has given us a very basic instructions. Okay, guys, have a good match, show control. Nothing important, but nothing noteworthy.
Sure.
And I gave him a very similar aggressive look. He's looking at me with this aggressive look. I'm looking at him with this aggressive look. He's thinking we're going to be two trains colliding right in the middle of the tracks.
Mhm.
Grandmaster says, go. I slide to the side. I poke him in the throat, hit him in the neck, hit him in the kidney, hit him in the throat again. And I'm dinking and dunking him to death, right? Grandmaster, break, stop, stop, stop. We reset. And he is so mad because I faked him out,
Uh-huh.
right? Now,
Good.
could I do that again?
No.
No, because he's expecting it, right? He didn't rush in on me. I didn't try to fake him out, right? The rest of the match was very, very different. So we're constantly making those adjustments based on what's working and what isn't.
Cool. Okay. See, those kicks are just absolutely ridiculous. They're
Yes.
overextended and
They're basically doing the same thing at each other. There's no...
Ow.
Yeah, those would hurt. Anyone who's ever shin clashed before knows how painful that is.
Now, although Morpheus isn't really throwing any punches, he's doing a lot of defensive
It is very,
throws.
he is very defensive, yes.
Yeah.
He's more to the point I would even say he's responsive.
All right, now this part's absolutely ridiculous. So tell me what. There's no fighting. It's just stance after stance after
Yes, and there's no point in any of this.
You get that parent coming in. How come my kid can't run up a beam?
Fortunately, I haven't had that part happen yet. And why he doesn't... There we go. That was pretty good. Right as he landed, that was his moment of opportunity.
Yeah.
Right? You know, is anytime you do any kind of jumping movement, let alone off of, you know, a wall, and I'm not quite sure how that works, but...
It's just going over your head and
Yes.
let's wait for him to land. And...
Exactly. Well, you know, during that moment of landing, that is that moment of opportunity, because there's that certain pause right after the landing.
All right, Mike.
Okay. You're gonna make me watch this.
I'm going to make you watch it.
You're gonna put me through this, huh?
I'm going to put you through.
Okay.
Now, let's set this up.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
The Karate Kid is next. We're not gonna debunk. I'm not gonna debunk.
I'll debunk.
He's gonna debunk.
I got no problem debunking.
We're gonna watch the scene between Johnny Lawrence and Ralph Macchio.
The final match.
Yeah,
Right.
Daniel-san. Now, obviously, it's hyped up for 80s
Sure.
tournament, whatever style. The lights are dark. The spotlight's on the mat. Okay, let's just debunk it right now. That's all Hollywood.
Of course.
What does a typical championship look like? And nothing like what we're about to see.
It's usually in like a college gymnasium. There's usually other events going on at the same time.
Yeah.
There's a hilarious line in Cobra Kai where one of the city council members, she makes them come, I don't get the fascination of karate in the valley. And it is such a wonderful meta moment in the series. And yeah, so, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've seen some wonderful championship matches before. And yeah, you know, you'll get people watching and stuff, but, you know, I've yet to see, you know, the spotlight come down and dim the lights, especially not for, you know, a pair of 16-year-old kids.
And for clarification, you don't hate the Karate Kid movies.
No.
You hate that people will watch the Karate Kid and come out of it thinking, I can do that and know karate.
Correct. Exactly. I view the Karate Kid and Star Wars in the same light. They are works of fiction.
Sure.
I don't watch Star Wars and then think I can be a Jedi Knight, right? It's any more than someone should look at the Karate Kid and say, yeah, I can do that crane kick. That means I'm a black belt.
We're gonna not just watch the crane kick. We're gonna pick apart the whole match.
There's a few actually good strikes. There's a few good combinations here.
Sure. I mean, right now, you were talking before about the distance between Keanu Reeves and Lawrence Fishburne.
Right.
As they were so far apart, and now here we are, they're more closer together.
Yes.
We're already more accurate than the Matrix.
They are, yes, and that is a very typical distance to start at for a competition sparring match. But what always strikes me about the initial part is how Johnny Lawrence bows. If you rewind it, you'll watch he bows to the judge, and then he gives a very, just barely a nod to Daniel.
I never noticed that.
That's a very subtle jab. So in the martial arts, if you don't bow to your partner before and after, that is about the biggest disrespect you can give to your opponent.
Wow.
Yeah, in my entire career, there's only been one time where I did not bow to my partner.
Oh man. And is it true? There's a big thing in the movie prior. Always look in the eye, right? It's,
You know, there are different cultural aspects of
uh
how to bow, where there's times where you are supposed to look at the person and times when you don't, when you simply have your eyes down towards the floor. That is very much a cultural thing,
huh.
depending on, okay, is it Chinese, Japanese, Taiwanese, Filipino, right? All these million and one different ways. There's actually um, policies, or not policies, but protocols
Hmm.
on how deep you bow, for how long you bow.
Right.
To me, those things are not nearly as important as simply doing a respectful bow to your partner.
Hmm. And Miyagi's from Okinawa, right? Or
Correct.
something like that. So
Yes.
that whatever fighting style Daniel is using, well, I mean, fiction as it may be, it's the culture is look in the eye and
Correct.
bow,
Right.
whereas Johnny is just
It,
a
it,
little
it
head.
basically gives him a little nod so he doesn't get disqualified.
I
Right.
never noticed that before.
Yeah.
That was, and the guy in the red is a referee. Is that
It's a great stash.
is the ref wouldn't be on the mat like that.
No, you would
He
be.
would be?
Yes.
Okay.
No, the referee would be very close about where he is.
Okay. All right. Let's dive deep
We haven't even
into
gone to the match. We haven't even gone past the bow. We might be a while.
All right.
Nice side step. Why they're like pausing so long in between strikes is beyond me. Not a bad body shot.
I think yeah, like we've established, or like the show always establishes that Miyagi's all defense
Right.
only.
Mm-hmm.
Danielson protecting the leg.
Yeah. Scissor kick takedown with a back fist. I mean, why you would drop down on an attack like that, when you're going to do a scissor kick takedown like that, you would already be on the ground. Maybe you already got swept or something like that. You're not just going to drop and do it.
Sweep the leg. You have a problem with that?
Now it's important for the people here to understand something. Mike is not evil as Kreese is, but Kreese giving the instruction to sweep the leg. Would you actually agree with that instruction?
If it's legal to do in
He's
the
injured.
context of the rules,
Yeah, he's injured in the leg.
it's a perfectly legitimate martial art move to do.
We'll see it. Yeah, right?
Say again?
We're going to see it.
Yes,
right.
right. And, they have established that leg sweeps are a perfectly legal thing to do in the context of this competition. If Daniel can't get swept, he shouldn't be on the mats.
And he chose to go back to the mat.
Right. And also, Miyagi did that hand thing.
Yeah.
He should be fine.
He's absolutely fine.
Right.
Even though he's limping,
Lawrence, nothing. Ready? Fight!
See, that's a pretty good combination of strikes. He went low, he went high.
And it was boom, boom.
Right. It was two clean kicks.
Now, how about what Johnny's doing now? Every time he wins the point, or it's a different, he goes into a kneeling. Well, we'll see after the next.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
He's trying to stomp his face. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, there's better things you can do.
Kick to the side. 1 point, Lawrence. 2-2. Ready?
2-2.
Horrible technique on the punches. God bless Ralph Macchio. The man cannot throw a punch or a kick to save his life.
All right, so he's throwing punches, kind of like.
Well, there's no directness behind the punch.
Uh-huh.
His punch wavers. I call it fishtailing. Where fishtailing a punch, I'm going to do it right at the camera here, is when it goes like that, or like that, right? I say I call that fishtailing because it looks like the tail of a fish, right? So, yeah, Ralph Macchio, good guy, right? I actually respect him. He doesn't claim to be an actual black belt, right? So, but
and like we established earlier, we're not The amount of time the actors go studying
Absolutely.
the martial arts.
Absolutely.
You're not disparaging
No, not
them.
there. No. If anything, I really respect him for getting out there and doing it. I
Mhm.
really do. Right? I mean, clearly there was some training that went on to do it. I'm not expecting or pardon me, I'm not expecting an actor to go in front of the camera and be black belt ready.
Unless you're
That's not realistic unless the person happens to be a black belt.
Ed O'Neill.
Unless you're Ed O'Neill,
Yeah.
Elvis Presley, right? You know, people like that who are actually legitimate black belts.
Come on, Daniel, you can do it. Come on.
How is that not a point? Or is it a strike? It's a strike to the.
So the takedowns generally aren't points, right? You would have to follow up with a strike to the head or torso. Now, why he didn't follow up is beyond me.
Punch to the face.
Punch to the face. He received a warning. I wonder if another strike to the face will be allowed. No one will ever know.
Whoever wins the next point will be our new champion. No point.
So here's what.
So right there, that is probably the best move in the entire Karate Kid franchise.
Oh man!
So Ralph Macchio, or Danielson, was completely extended on the kick and still out of range, mind you. So Daniel was overextended on the kick. So
and it was his injured leg too.
It was his injured leg that he's kicking with. Johnny was way too far away for that kick. Way too far away. So Johnny lets the kick miss, moves in, hooks the leg, and attacks the leg. From a martial art standpoint, that is exactly what you do against that type of kick. Now, is that legal in a point sparring type of competition? Probably not.
Probably not. I was about to say, would there be any reason to break in a so he does that move. Would there any reason to break and back off?
It would be depending on the rules of the competition, right? Some competitions allow leg strikes like that, and then if you attack the leg and then immediately follow up with a strike to the torso or the head, that's legal.
Okay.
Other competitions do not allow any sort of strikes to the legs, sweeps, any of that. It depends on the rules of the individual tournament.
And we've established
we've established that leg strikes are okay.
And punches to the face.
And punches to the face clearly are not, because Johnny received a warning.
Love Pat Noriega.
Noriega? Wrong guy.
All right, Mike.
Oh, God. Here we go. What are you doing? Johnny, just don't lead with your face. Don't lead with your face, Johnny. Dramatic music. And Johnny.
Winner! Now,
so much wrong with that. So much wrong with that.
Well, okay, let credit where credit's due. The first episode of Cobra Kai.
Yes.
They bring it up. Johnny Lawrence says, it was an illegal kick. I got a warning. You got the win.
Okay. Right, exactly.
All right, Mike, what is wrong with that kick?
Okay, so, first of all, let's look at the position Daniel is in.
He's in a crane.
He has no guard.
None.
Which means you have no balance. You have no control over what you're doing. You're on one leg, which means one of two things has to happen. You're either going to kick with the leg that's up, or you're going to jump and kick with the other leg. And the moments of opportunity is when you land. It's his left leg that's up, meaning it's his injured leg that's up. So he's either going to kick with the injured leg, which means he's going to block it and attack the injured leg in the process, or he's going to jump, kick with the right leg, land on the left leg, the injured one.
Right.
Landing on the injured leg is going to be incredibly painful, right? So you are counting on one kick, which Miyagi says is indefensible. It's defensible, right? It is very defensible,
It's
by
a
one.
response kick, though, right?
It is a defensive kick, which is fine.
Responsive kick. Someone's coming at you. It's indefensible because you're kicking as a response to
It's
an attack.
defensible when the person moving in doesn't move in leading with your face. You look at Johnny's form as he's moving in. His arms are out by his sides. What is he trying to do? I have no clue. All Johnny needs to do there is wait. Right? Either let Daniel kick with the leg that's up, his left leg, block that kick, right? At which point you just block an injured leg. It's gonna take him a second or two. A second or two in a fight is an eternity, right? And you follow up, or you let him do some jumpy thing, and when he lands, he's gonna hurt the leg, and you attack him from there. So there is a lot wrong with that, from what Daniel does to what Johnny does.
The argument that I've heard is because Johnny advanced forward, going for an attack, that makes the kick legal.
He could have kicked him in the chest.
Okay, but he aimed for the face, is what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, he clearly aimed that kick for the face. It was a rising trajectory on the kick, right? So if it has a rising trajectory, of course, it's going to kick on the underside of the chin like that, right? The underside of the chin or the face itself. He easily could have driven that kick into his solar plexus, stomach, what have you, right? And there would be no debate about the legality of the kick. Daniel's a cheater.
Daniel's a cheater, but I would also say that because Johnny rushed in, and maybe the kick landed, but maybe they would have just redone the whole. That's an illegal kick to the face. You're going to get a warning. Johnny already has his warning.
Who's the Cobra Kai member who hurt Daniel's leg in the first place? Is that Bobby?
It was the guy before.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Is that Bobby?
Probably.
Yeah, he should have been awarded first place. Disqualified?
It's he does it here, and he just kind of breaks his knee.
Right, exactly. Right. Daniel delivered an illegal kick. Right. Johnny got hit by a strike he should have never been hit with in the first place. Neither one of them should have won.
Oh, so you're saying okay,
right? So
Johnny should be disqualified for anything.
Or just out of principle.
It's out of principle.
Right? Daniel should have been disqualified for an illegal hit. Bobby should have won. That's justice for Bobby. #.
We'll make signs.
Yes.
Johnny Lawrence show. Justice for Zemeckis.
There you go.
I love that. Yeah, and I love how Cobra Kai addresses it.
Yes,
it's just.
I love how self-aware Cobra Kai is.
Yeah.
Right, it is very meta in that sense, where they are very self-aware of that argument behind that and everything. Yes.
Right, man. That's so funny. Thanks for your time, man, and doing this. Before we head out or say goodbye and everything, tell everyone where you're at, where to find you, and if they're in the Bay Area.
Yeah, absolutely. Go on USSD.com, right? Short for United Studios of Self-Defense. USSD.com. You can find your dojo there. We got schools up here in the Bay Area, Orange County, Washington State, Nevada, right? We're growing, so if we don't have one near you, hopefully we will soon.
And you do Zoom as well, right?
We do.
The one thing COVID taught you was do online classes.
Absolutely. I teach students in India, right, how to do martial arts.
Nice.
Yeah, and like you said, that's an aspect of COVID that, as horrible as it was, right? A little brightness in the storm, right? I'm out in Livermore. I'm in the Arroyo Seco shopping center in Livermore.
USSD.com/Livermore or
nope, USSD.com. If you want to find us, go find your studio. I'm in Livermore.
Cool, man.
All right.
Thank you. But how do you really feel about the... Thanks again for watching, and if you're interested in learning the martial arts or taking a self-defense class, Master Michael Delfino's link will be in the description below. And if you haven't already, go ahead and like, subscribe, share this video, hit that notification button so you don't miss out on another episode of the Meet and Greet. See you next time.